Have a nice day, children. Today we will see about anti-colonial movements and the British of nationalism. This is from History Unit 7. On 23rd June 1757, the Nawab of Bengal Siraj-ud-Dowla was defeated by the East India Company. The battle is a Battle of Plassey. This was orchestrated by Robert Clive, Commander-in-Chief of the East India Company. The company received rupees 22.5 million from Mir Jafar, who became the new Nawab of Bengal. The plunder of India by the East India Company continued for another 190 years. Peasant and tribal resistance. The traditional elite and peasantry means farmers along with the tribals revolted. They were not necessarily seeking the removal of British but rather the restoration of the pre-colonial order. There were nearly 100% uprising during British rule. They can be classified into the following categories. That is, first one is restorative rebellions. That is to restore old order and old social relations. Next one is religious movements. Church agitations were led by religious leaders who fought for the liberation of the local populace by restructuring society on certain religious principles. Next one is social banditry. The leaders of such movements were considered criminal by the British and the traditional elite, but were looked upon by their people as heroes or champions of their cause. Last one is mass insurrections, usually leaderless and spontaneous uprising. Changes in the revenue system. The East India Company restructured the Mughal revenue system across India in such a manner that it increased the financial burden on the peasants. There was no widespread system of private ownership of the land in pre-British India. Subletting of India. The practice of letting out and subletting of land complicated the agrarian relations. The zamindar often sublet land to many subordinate lords who in return collected a fixed amount of revenue from the peasant. This increased the tax burden on the peasants. Peasant uprising. Peasant revolts began to erupt in the early 19th century and continued till the very end of British rule in India. Farazi movement. Farazi movement was launched by Haji Sahirdullah in 1818. After the death of Sahirdullah in 1839, the rebellion was led by his son Dudumian, who called upon the peasants not to pay tax. Dudumian laid emphasis on the egalitarian nature of religion and declared that land belongs to God, and collecting rent or levying taxes on it was therefore against divine law. Large numbers of peasants were mobilized through a network of village organizations. Next one we will see about Wahhabi rebellion in Baraset. The Wahhabi rebellion was an anti-imperial and anti-landlord movement. It was led by an Islamic preacher, Titumir, who was deeply influenced by the Wahhabi teachings. He became an influential figure among the predominantly Muslim peasantry oppressed under the coercive Jamindari system. Tribal uprising. Under colonial rule, for the first time in Indian history, government claimed a direct proprietary right over forests. The British rule and its encouragement of commercialization of forest led to the disintegration of the traditional tribal system. It encouraged the incursion of tribal areas by the non-tribal people such as moneylenders, traders, land grabbers and contractors. This led to the widespread loss of Adivasi land and their displacement from their traditional habitats. Cold Revolt. One major tribal revolt, the Kol uprising of 1831 to 32, took place in Chota Nagpur and Singhbhum region of present-day Jharkhand and Odisha under the leadership of Bindari and Singrai, the Raja of Bindrai and Singrai. The Raja of Chota Nagpur had leased out to moneylenders the job of revenue collection. The usury and forcible eviction of tribals from their land led to the resettlement of Kols. The initial protest and resistance call was in the form of plunder, arson, and attacks on the properties of outsiders. This was followed by the killing of moneylenders and merchants. The tribal leaders adopted varied methods to spread their message, such as the beating of drums accompanied by a warning to all outsiders to leave. The British suppressed the rebellion with great violence. Santhal Hul insurrection. Sandals scattered in various parts of eastern India when forced to move out of their homeland during the process of creation of zamins under permanent settlement cleared the forest area around the Rajmahal hills. They were oppressed by the local police and the European officers engaged in the railway construction. Pushed out of their familiar habitat, the Sandals were forced to rely on the moneylenders for their subsistence. Soon they were trapped in a vicious circle of debt and extortion. Beside this, Sandals also felt neglected under the corrupt British administration and their inability to render justice to their legitimate grievances. Legitimate means legal. Outbreak. In 1855, two Sandal brothers, Sidhu and Kanu, proclaimed that they had received a divine message from the god asking them to lead the rebellion. By July 1855, the rebellion has taken the form of open insurrection against the Mahajans, the Jamindars, and the British officials. In 1855, an act was passed to regulate the territories occupied by the Sandals. The act formed the territory into a separate division called Sandal Pargana Division. Munda Rebellion. One of the prominent tribal rebellions of this period occurred in Ranchi, known as Ulugulan Rebellion. The Munda people were also forcefully recruited as indentured laborers to work on plantations. Birsa Munda declared himself as the messenger of God. The Munda leaders utilized the cult of Birsa Munda to recruit more people to their cause. On the Christmas day of 1889, they restored to violence. Buildings were burnt down and arrows were shot at Christian missionaries and Munda Christian converts. Finally, the resistance was crushed and Birsa Munda was arrested. The Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act, that is in 1908, restricted the entry of non-tribal people into the tribal land. Next, the Great Rebellion of 1857. The events of 1857, the events of 1857 to 58 are significant for the following reasons. This was the first major revolt of armed force accompanied by civilian rebellion. The revolt witnessed unprecedented violence perpetrated by both sides. The revolt ended the role of the East India Company and the governance of the Indian subcontinent was taken over by the British Crown. What are the causes? First one is annexation policy of British India. In the 1840s and 50s, more territories were annexed through two major policies: the doctrine of paramountcy, the doctrine of lapse. What is doctrine of paramountcy? British claimed themselves as paramount, exercising supreme authority. New territories were annexed on the grounds that the native rulers were inept. What is the doctrine of lapse? If a native ruler did not have male heir to the throne, the territory was to lapse into British India upon the death of the ruler. Satara, Sambalpur, parts of the Punjab, Jhansi and Nagpur were annexed by the British through the doctrine of lapse. Already you know about that. Next one is insensitivity to Indian cultural sentiments. In 1806, the sepoys at Vellore mutinied against the new dress code, which prohibited Indians from wearing religious marks on their foreheads and having whiskers on their chin, while proposing to replace their turbans with a round hat. The sepoys were also upset with the discrimination in salary and promotion. Indian sepoys were paid much less than their European counterparts. They felt humiliated and racially abused by their seniors. The revolt. The precursor to the revolt was the circulation of rumors about the cartridges of the new Enfield rifle. There was strong suspicion that the new cartridges had been greased with cow and pig fat. The cartridges had to be bitten off before loading. Pork is forbidden to the Muslims and the cow is sacred to a large section of Hindus. On 29th March, a sepoy named Mangal Pandey assaulted his European officer. His fellow soldiers refused to arrest him when ordered to do so. Mangal Pandey, along with others, were court-martialed, that is judicial court, and hanged. This only fueled the anger, and in the following days there were increasing incidents of disobedience. Banning and arson were reported from the army cantonments in Ambala, Lucknow and Meerut. Next one. Bahadur Shah proclaimed as Emperor of Hindustan. On 11th May 1857, a band of Sepoys from Meerut marched to Red Fort in Delhi. The Sepoys were followed by an equally exuberant, that is, excitement, a crowd who gathered to ask the Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah II to become their leader. After much hesitation, he accepted the offer and was proclaimed as the Shahenshah-e Hindustan. Civil Rebellion. Sepoys working in the British Army were in the fact peasants in uniform. They were equally affected by the restructuring of the revenue administration. The Sepoy revolt and the subsequent civil rebellion in various parts of India had a deep-rooted connection with the rural mass. A large number of zamindars talukdars were also attracted to the rebellions as they had lost their various privileges under the British government. The talukdar peasant collective was a common effort to recover what they had lost. Similarly, artisans and handicrafts persons were equally affected by the dethroning of rulers of many Indian states who were a major source of patronage. The dumping of British manufacturers had ruined the Indian handicrafts and thrown thousands of weavers out of employment. Collective anger against the British took the form of a people's revolt. Prominent fighters against the British. Nana Sahib, the adopted son of the lost Peshwa Paji Rao II, provided leadership in his Kanpur region. He had been denied pension by the company. Similarly, Begum Hazrat Mahal in Lucknow and Khan Bahadur in Bareilly took the command of their respective territories, which were once ruled either by them or by their ancestors. Another such significant leader was Rani Lakshmibai, who assumed the leadership in Jhansi. In her case, Dalhousie, the Governor General of Bengal, had refused her request to adopt a son as their successor after her husband died, and the kingdom was annexed under the doctrine of lapse. Bahadur Shah Jafar, Kanwar Singh, Khan Bahadur, Rani Lakshmibai, and many others were rebels against their will, compelled by the bravery of the Chippewas who had defied the British authority. Suppression of rebellion. By the beginning of June 1857, the Delhi, Meerut, Rohilkhand, Agra, Allahabad, and Banaras divisions of the army had been restored to British control and placed under martial law. Causes of failure. There is hardly any evidence to prove that the rebellion of 1857 was organized and planned. Besides a few Indian states, there was a general lack of enthusiasm among the Indian princes to participate in the rebellion. The Indian princes and zamindars either remained loyal or were fearful of British power. The emerging English educated middle class too did not support the rebellion. One of the important reasons for the failure of the rebellion was the absence of a central authority. There was no common agenda that united the individuals and the aspirations of the Indian princes and the various other feudal elements fighting against the British. The rebel leaders were defeated due to the lack of weapons, organization, discipline, and betrayal by their aides. Delhi was captured by the British troops in late 1857. Bahadur Shah was captured and transported to Burma. India becomes a crown colony. The British Parliament adopted the Indian Government Act in November 1858, and India was pronounced as one of the many crown colonies to be directly governed by the Parliament. The responsibility was given to a member of the cabinet designated as the Secretary of State for India. Changes in the administration. British followed a cautious approach to the issue of social reform. Queen Victoria proclaimed to the Indian people that the British would not interfere in traditional institutions and religious matters. It was promised that Indians would be observed in government services. Two significant changes were made to the structure of the Indian army. The number of Indians was significantly reduced. Indians were restrained from holding important ranks and position. British also exploited the caste, religious, linguistic, and regional differences in the Indian society through what came to be known as divide and rule policy. Peasant revolts under crown. First one is Indigo Revolt, 1859 to 60. Many Europeans employed peasants to grow the indigo, which was processed into dye at the planters' factories. The dye was then exported to Europe. The peasants were forced to grow the crop. The British planter gave the cultivator a cash advance to help pay for the rent of the land and other costs. The Indigo Revolt began in 1859. The 1860 play Nil Darpan, that is Mirror of the Indigo, by Dinabandhu Mitra did much to draw attention in India and Europe to the plight of the indigo growers. Next one, Deccan Riots, 1875. Heavy taxation ruined agriculture. Famine deaths increased. The first recorded incident of rioting against the moneylenders in the Deccan was in May 1875 in Supa village near Pune. Similar cases of riots were reported. Under British rule, peasants were forced to pay revenue directly to the government. Also, under a new law, moneylenders were allowed to attach the mortgaged land of the defaulters and auction it off. This resulted in a transfer of lands from the cultivators to the non-cultivating classes. Trapped in the vicious cycle of debt and unable to pay the outstanding amount, the peasant was forced to abandon cultivation. The foundation of Indian National Congress 1870-85. Rise of nationalism. The Indian intelligentsia played a critical role in generating a national consciousness by exposing a large number of people to the idea of nation, nationalism, and various democratic aspirations. Even though they were numerically small, they had a national character and capacity to establish contacts on all India scale. They were working as lawyers, journalists, government employees, teachers, or doctors. They took initiative to float political outfits such as Madras Native Association 1852, East India Association 1866, Madras Mahajana Sabha 1884, Pune Sarvajanik Sabha 1870, the Bombay Presidents Association 1885, and many others. Economic critique of colonialism. One of the most significant contributions of early Indian nationalists was the formulation of an economic critique of colonialism. Dadabhai Naoroji, Justice Ranade, and Ramesh Chandra Dutt played a significant role in making this criticism about colonial economy. They clearly understood that the prosperity of the British lay in the economic and political subjugation of India. They concluded that the colonialism was the main obstacle to the India's economic development. Objectives and methods. The first session of the Indian National Congress was held on 28th December 1885. The early objectives were to develop and consolidate sentiments of national unity. Some of the key demands were the following: creations of legislative councils at provincial and central level, increasing the number of elected members in the legislative council, separating judicial and executive functions, then reducing military expenditure, reduction of home charges, extension of tribal by jury, holding civil services exams in India as well as in England, police reforms, reconsideration of forest laws, promotion of Indian industries, and an end to unfair tariffs and excise duties. Next one, militant nationalism. The methods of moderate leaders failed to yield any substantive change in the British attitude towards the moderate demands of early Indian nationalists. They were criticized by a group of leaders known as extremists. Instead of prayers and petitions, these militants were more focused on self-help. Next one is partition of Bengal. Hindu-Muslim divide. First one is, it was openly stated that the objective of partition was to crucial Bengali influence and weaken the nationalist movement. By placing Bengal under two administrative units, Curzon reduced the Bengali speaking people to a linguistic minority in a divided Bengal. Curzon assured Muslims that in the new province of East Bengal, Muslims would enjoy a unity. Instead of dividing the Bengali people along the religious line, partition united them. The growth of regional language newspapers played a role in building a sense of proud Bengali identity. Next one is anti-partition movement. With the failure to annul the partition, moderate leaders were forced to rethink their strategy and look for new techniques of protest. The boycott of British goods was one such method. However, the agenda of Swadeshi movement was still restricted to secure an annulment of partisan, and the moderates were very much against utilizing the combine to start a full-fledged passive resistance. The militant nationalists, on the other hand, were in favor of extending the movement beyond Bengal and to initiate a full-scale mass struggle. The day Bengal was officially patronized, 16 October 1905, was declared as a day of mourning. Thousands of people took bath in the Ganga and marched on the streets of Calcutta singing Bande Matram. Next one is boycott and Swadeshi movement in Bengal 1905 to 1911. Boycott and Swadeshi were always interlinked to each other and part of the wider plan to make India self-sufficient. Four major trends can be discerned during the Swadeshi movement in Bengal. The moderate trend, constructive Swadeshi, militant nationalism, revolutionary terrorism. Constructive Swadeshi. The constructive programs largely stressed upon self-help. It focused on building alternative institutions of self-governance that would operate free of British control. Swadeshi shops sprang all over the place, selling textiles, handlooms, soaps, earthenware, match and leather goods. Next one is passive resistance. From 1906, the Swadeshi movement took a turn. Under this new direction, the Swadeshi program included 4 points: boycott of foreign goods, boycott of government schools and colleges, courts, titles and government services, development of Swadeshi industries, national schools, recourse to armed struggle if British repression went beyond the limits of endurance. Militant nationalism. Lala Lajpati Rai of Punjab, Bala Gangadhar Tilak of Maharashtra and Bipin Chandrapal of Bengal were three prominent leaders during the Swadeshi period and were referred to as Lal, Bal, Pal. Punjab, Bengal and Maharashtra emerged as the hotbed of militant nationalism during the Swadeshi movement. In South India, Tuticorin became the most important location of Swadeshi activity with the launch of a Swadeshi steam navigation company by V.O. Chidambaranar. Swaraj or political independence. One of the common goals of the extremist leaders was to achieve Swaraj or self-rule. However, the leaders differed on the meaning of Swaraj. For Tilak, Swaraj was the attainment of complete autonomy and total freedom from foreign rule. Home Rule Movement. During the Home Rule Movement 1916 to 1918, led by Lokmanya Tilak and Annie Besant, World War I and India's participation in it was the background for the Home Rule League. When Britain declared war against Germany in 1914, the moderate and liberal leadership extended their support to the British cause. It was hoped that in return, the British government would give self-government after the war. Indian troops were sent to several theatres of World War, but the British administration remained non-committal to such goals. What was seen as a British betrayal to the Indian cause of the self-government led to a fresh call for a mass movement to pressurize the British government. Objectives of the Home Rule Movement: to attain self-government within the British Empire by using constitutional means, to obtain the status of dominion, a political position accorded later to Australia, Canada, South Africa and New Zealand, to use non-violent constitutional methods to achieve their goals. Lucknow Pact 1916, the Home Rule movement and the subsequent reunion of moderate and the militant nationalists opened the possibility of fresh talks with the Muslims. Under the Lucknow Pact 1916, the Congress and the Muslim League agreed that there should be self-government in India as soon as possible. In turn, the Congress leadership accepted the concept of separate electorate for Muslims. British response. as the demand for Swaraj raised by Tilak and Annie Besant that gained popularity. The British used the same old ploy to isolate the leaders by repressing their activities. In 1919, the British government announced the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, which promised gradual progress of India towards self-government. This caused deep disappointment to Indian nationalists. In further blow, the government enacted what was called the Rowlatt Act, which provided for arbitrary arrest and strict punishment. I hope you are all understand this lesson. Go through the lesson and learn book back questions and answers. Thank you, ma.